Hello everyone. Welcome to my first podcast episode. I've been thinking about starting a podcast for quite a while now, and I think it's time. I don't have a specific niche, but I think as a 23-year-old, I make a pretty good older sister, and I have a younger sister. And so I have these Gen Z experiences, which I think are important to share with the new generation because people are really going off the rails. No one knows how to heal, how to be calm, how to kind of navigate big challenges in life. And I don't claim to myself. I'm still figuring everything out. But the little bits that I have figured out, I think it's worthwhile sharing through a podcast. I don't have a name for this yet, so if you have any ideas, let me know. But today's episode is about how to be less depressed. Now, it's already kind of a depressing start, but I think I have some things to talk about in terms of this topic that might be worthwhile to some people. Now, I don't claim to be a therapist or a medical expert in any way, so take this very lightly. These are just my tips and tricks. They're going through a hard time and how I deal with it. And I've been doing better from where we started. So I think that kind of goes to say some of these things might be working for me. And maybe they'll work for you too. Another thing, this mic is completely for show. It's not plugged into anything because I didn't know what to plug into. I don't have a recording device yet. So this is all for the aesthetic. Take it as you please. Okay, starting off, how to be less depressed. So why would I choose this topic? Obviously, let's think about it. Maybe because I'm going through a breakup. It's almost been 2 months now, but that's still relatively early stages, I would say. I mean, some people, they get on dating apps straight away, same week as the breakup, and they feel like they've moved on. But yeah, that's just a temporary solution, and it's gonna come and bite you in the ass in the future. So I wouldn't suggest you do that. And this episode isn't just about being depressed because of a breakup. You could have lost a job or just anything that makes you kind of sad. I haven't dealt with grief, losing a close one. So nothing I'm going to say in this episode I have articulated for that sort of scenario because I have nothing to say in those circumstances, and I'm really sorry if you're going through something like that. But just keep in mind that I'm talking about something a bit lighter. Yeah, just putting that out there. So, what is depression? Depression is, according to Google, a group of conditions associated with the elevation or lowering of a person's mood. So it comes with a lot of different mental illnesses, and I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I haven't even diagnosed myself. I do just see a therapist to talk about my feelings, and it's very light and airy. But it's just about your mood being really high or really low, usually on the lower side. And commonly, but don't confuse the two, anxiety is also something we'll talk about. Anxiety is, according to Google, an intense, excessive, persistent worry or fear about everyday situations. Fast heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, and feeling tired may occur. So it's just kind of feelings that can be associated when you're in a bad mood, but it doesn't have to be okay. These things are a little different, but they sometimes go together. And I've been feeling both of these things because, of course, when you think something's gonna work out and it doesn't, your mood is instantly just gonna drop really low. And it was accommodated with anxiety. My heart was racing really fast. I was worrying about the future, the past, the present. I had this whole idea of how my life was going to be with this person in America. And then suddenly that whole version of reality disappeared off the face of the earth. And I had nothing to come back to. I kind of stopped planning my life in New Zealand. I completely forgot who I was, and all those things were very scary, and they did make me depressed. I didn't want to study. I didn't want to eat. I just wanted to sleep for 24 hours a day so that I just wouldn't wake up to have to deal with this emptiness I was feeling in my life. And paired with anxiety, my heart racing, I'm getting sweaty, I'm like crying all the time because I just don't know what to do. There wasn't a solution to how I was feeling. So in my perspective, I think there's two ways of being depressed. Something caused you to be depressed, or you can be depressed for no reason, okay? They equally happen, equally likely. You can be anxious for absolutely no reason at all. And for me, it was kind of both. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, this thing happened in my life. That's why I don't know what to do. And sometimes I'm like with my sister, I'm watching TV. Everything's perfect right now. I'm eating food that I like. I'm safe. I have a roof over my head. And I still feel like crying and panicking and my heart's racing for no reason, even though I'm okay in the present moment. So what do? I think if you are depressed or anxious and something caused you to be anxious, your first instinct might be to find a solution to that problem, like to take away what caused you to feel anxious. And sometimes we can do that, and sometimes we can't. And in a lot of situations, we're more depressed and anxious when we can't find a solution to what's making us feel this way, which was the instance for me as well. Like, it happened, okay, I had this experience in America and it didn't work out, and now there's nothing I can do to change it. Like, I pretty much did everything, and now I'm feeling depressed and anxious. So what do? Firstly, I'm going to talk about some things you shouldn't do if you're feeling anxious, because this is something that I also did. Seems like an easy solution, but going on social media. And now I don't mean like occasionally posting. I'm going to talk about how YouTube really helped me actually, but I'm talking about Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Things you can just endlessly scroll through, and it just takes your mind off why you're feeling anxious. And it feels like, oh my god, it's helping. I'm not thinking about what's making me depressed. And now you're just scrolling through social media, seeing everyone's fabulous lives, what they're doing, and slowly it kind of can make you more depressed and anxious in the long term. As soon as you put your phone down, you're back into that reality of feeling anxious, because going on social media doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make you feel any better. It's a very temporary solution, and sometimes that's okay to pick up your phone. But for me, once I picked up my phone, I cannot put it back down. And that did not used to be me. I used to be like, oh, picking up my phone, okay, I can put it down because I have to go do something. But when I'm like feeling really low and I pick up my phone, I don't want to get off it because I'm just feeling this dopamine. I feel like I'm a part of society again. And if I put my phone down, I suddenly feel like, oh my god, I'm all alone here in my room, and that's not a nice feeling. So when I go back on social media, just scrolling, and you can literally forget what the time is. My screen time during like the past few weeks ago, even last week, insane. Like, I'm spending all my waking hours on social media, and that's not necessarily good for you, because as soon as you put your phone back down and you're back into reality, you realize it's a reality that you don't like, and it's going to continue to keep you depressed and make you anxious. But again, another thing I wouldn't recommend when you're feeling low is to be alone for too long. So I think being alone is a really good thing. Okay, I think you should spend time alone. But spending too much time alone, like 7 days a week, and you don't see anyone's face, you don't have a conversation in person with anyone, that can also be really bad for your mental health. Obviously, because you need to feel connection, you need to feel human connection. It's just what we need as humans. So if you have a sibling, you're blessed. I mean, I have a sibling, you've seen her on YouTube, and I love her to bits, okay? She holds me together in ways without even realizing. And so talking to her, watching TV with her is kind of like my human connection. And I like to go get food with a friend at least once a week. And that's nice. You know what's happening kind of outside of your family. And these have to be people that you trust, you're close with, you feel safe and secure. I wouldn't suggest getting a dating app, even Bumble BFF. I am on Bumble BFF, which is where you find friends. I wouldn't say be depressed and anxious and then like meet girls for the first time ever and then tell them all these like depressing, anxious things about you in the first meeting. Firstly, that's not a healthy friendship. Secondly, that's not going to help you feel calm at the end of the day, because you can only feel that with people you have a connection with, that you can trust. So if you're close with your family, spend some time with your family. Spending too much time with your family when you're depressed can also trigger more anxiety. So find a balance that works for you, but don't be alone for too long. By too long, I mean like you have to see people and talk to people a couple times a week at least, okay? But moving on, things you should do if you're feeling anxious. The first thing I have is cry. If you need to cry, if you feel it swelling up in your stomach and your chest, get a private space. Sometimes I leave the room I'm in and just cry a little bit. My therapist told me this is good for me. I've seen it everywhere. People tell you if you suppress your feelings, if you kind of bottle it up, it stays inside you. You have to let it out to feel better in the long run. And I was thinking about this. Like, the reason why I feel depressed and anxious sometimes is because I want this person to come back into my life. Okay, and I feel like if they come back into my life, everything will be perfect again. But I think about it. Everything will be perfect for 5 minutes. I'm going to be like, wow, this person came back into my life. They're going to be a better person for me. I feel good for 5 minutes. On the 6th minute, I start thinking, oh, I have to go back to this life with this person that was making me miserable. And I have to live this miserable life for the rest of my life. So 5 minutes of happiness, and then minute 6, you get the reality check of kind of why things ended. And you go back to this shitty life. Or you cry for 5 minutes, have 5 minutes of pain, and then come back to creating a life that you actually want to live. And the possibilities are endless. That's how I see it. I think this analogy only works in like a breakup sense, but I think it can work in terms of friendships as well. Like, if you kind of left a shitty situation, but you like some aspect of that shitty situation, that's why you're like still holding on. Well, if you get that thing that you like, you get that whole shitty situation back as well. So, you know, the reality is going to hit you eventually. So I'd rather cry for 5 minutes, and then on the 6th minute, I'm like, oh, I'm in the country that I love. I'm with my sister that I love. I can get a rich guy if I want to. You know, it's just, you don't have to. The reality check, the minute 6 is also important. So if you're anxious and you need to cry, just cry. And sometimes that's the first step for me. The second thing I do after I've like cried enough, like my stomach's calm and empty, breathe, take a few deep breaths in, and just sit still and breathe. Now, people have these weird like inhale for X amount of minutes, hold for X amount of minutes, exhale for X amount of minutes. I don't listen to that. You can if you want to. If you have something that works for you, do that. But for me, just breathe what feels normal to you. Okay, make it long. Fill up your lungs. Don't bother counting your breathing. I think that just feels so weird to me. But if it works for you, it works for you. But if you're not counting your breathing, you're not doing it wrong, okay? Just breathe. Thirdly, after you've cried and you've taken a breath, you can choose to do anything. So for me, when I wasn't anxious and depressed, okay, when I wasn't having like an anxiety attack and I was calm, I made a list on a whiteboard in my room of things that I can do if and when I get anxious. And so when I do get anxious, I kind of look at my whiteboard and find something on it that I feel like doing now. So if you haven't made a list, I'll share some things that are on my list. First thing I have is journaling. Now, it seems so cliche. I think every self-help person or book is going to tell you to journal, but it just works. Okay, I've tried journaling many times and sometimes it hasn't worked in the past. Okay, sometimes I feel like this journal has to be so neat. I have to write in this format. My camera overheated, so we're just gonna start this part again. But journaling, you don't have to stick to a certain format. It doesn't have to be neat. You don't need prompts. If prompts help you to journal, then go ahead. But maybe just try everything. Use some prompts. Use a certain font or structure if it helps you journal. And then figure out which one works for you. So for me, I switch it up every time. Sometimes I'm talking to myself in third person. So I'm like, dear Bavina, la-di-la-di-da. Or sometimes I feel like this, I feel like that. So no third person, I'm just writing down my feelings. Or I feel like I'm talking to the universe. So why is this happening, universe? If you're religious, talk to God. I am religious, but it's a complicated relationship there right now. So I just write to the universe. And the purpose of journaling is just kind of to get your thoughts on paper. In your mind, everything can feel really confusing, but sometimes when you start writing things down, it becomes more clearer why you're feeling the way you are. Sometimes you don't need a person to tell you why you should calm down. Journaling just tells yourself why you should calm down based on what you're writing and what you're feeling. So that works for me. It's a little more complicated than it sounds, but then it's also not complicated at all at the same time. So just get a book and a pen and start writing. I try not to just write negative thoughts down. I try to mix in there why I shouldn't be feeling sad if you know the reason. I try to end off with you're gonna have a fantastic day, or you deserve amazing things, But if you're finding it hard to tell yourself those things, just write down whatever you're feeling. And it just sometimes gives you clarity. You can write it and forget it, or you can write it and read it again. I do a bit of both, depending on how I'm feeling, because sometimes when I read it again, I cry again. Because I'm you can do the whole crying, breathing, writing in your journal, a cycle a few times, if that works for you. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I write it and I'm this makes a lot of sense. And I close the book and I'm yep, I don't feel like crying again after that. Didn't want to read it again either. Another thing on my list is going for a walk. You don't even have to walk, just go outside. Before, when someone would tell me go outside, in my mind I'd be oh my god, I have to get dressed. I have to drive somewhere with a nice view. Okay, that's not what that's not what I realize people mean by going outside, especially in therapy. Going outside literally just means opening the door and walking outside. You can literally sit on your front porch if that's what it means, but you just need to breathe in the fresh air outside. If it's raining, if it's sunny, whatever the weather is, just go out in the clothes you are. I'm in my PJs right now because I needed to be comfortable to talk about this topic today. So don't worry. If you want to drive around, you can drive around, but make sure you're in a clear enough mindset to drive, because sometimes you do get so anxious that you don't feel like driving, and that's okay. So don't drive in those circumstances. But if sometimes pulling the window down, putting some music on, going for a drive is what you need, then that's what you need. But going outside. Mental health walks are really fun. And I like calling them a mental health walk, because just saying I'm going for a walk seems too basic. Going for a mental health walk, it's yeah, I take care of my mental health. That's why I'm going on this walk. It just makes it more special for me. If that doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But yeah, it's like a 10-minute walk anywhere from my house, and then I'll come back, usually with my sister. Yeah, you don't need to wear an Apple Watch, track your steps, or look at the time. Walk as soon as you feel like you're getting a little tired. Even if you're not feeling tired, just come back, okay? Just super, super simple. Do whatever your body wants you to do. If you need to stop 5 steps from your yard, come back. That's totally fine, okay? There's no right or wrong way to do this. The third thing I have on my list is having a snack. It's so simple, but sometimes when you're feeling low and anxious, food is the last thing on your mind. And honestly, even if you've just eaten and then you get anxiety and you need a snack to calm yourself down, just have a snack, okay? Like, being chubby is the least of your concerns at this point. That's what I tell myself, at least. If you need food to just make it through this day that you're living right now, then just have a snack. And that's completely okay. Have something that you like. Have a full meal if you need to, if you feel like it. But sometimes just focus on something other than how I'm feeling. I'll have a snack. Interact my taste buds into something that isn't toxic. It's just super simple. The fourth thing I have is have a shower. Usually when I am depressed, it's kind of something I've been dwelling on for a while now. And so sometimes you forget to shower, or like you keep putting it off. You know you have to, but you're like, I'll do it this morning, I'll do it in the afternoon, I'll do it tomorrow morning. So like when you're feeling anxious and really lonely and you're just sitting there and you don't want to do anything, just have a shower. Not because you need to be clean. Maybe you've just had a shower that day already. Have a second shower. Just being in the shower with water running over you, it's good for your mind. It's another way to reflect. If journaling's not your thing, you have shower thoughts. It's a normal thing humans have. They have weird thoughts in the shower about anything and everything. And it can be fun and distracting. And you might think of something you want to do after you get out of the shower while you're in the shower. So just have a shower. The fifth thing I have is watch a show. This can be on TV, it can be on Netflix, it can be a movie, anything. Just watch something. Because sometimes when we're just finished bawling our eyes out and you don't know what to do next, just be kind to yourself. Do something fun. I think what I see people struggling with, what I struggle with myself, is I'm feeling so low and then I'm trying to convince myself like, oh, I should go study. I should go do this really amazing thing. I should reply to all my henna inquiries that I have piled up. You think productivity, but that's the last thing you should be thinking about. I think I'm very privileged when I say that, because some people, they don't have a choice. They're feeling low. They have to go to work. They have to reply to these inquiries. They have to do certain things. But for me, I'm so lucky I have a choice. And sometimes you do have a choice, but you are too hard on yourself, that you feel the need to be productive all the time, to think of yourself as a good functioning human. And that's not true. You can watch TV, you can breathe after you've cried or you feel anxious, and that can be your day, and that can be okay. Of course, if that's the only thing you're doing for 3 months, then you should get some professional help maybe, or we'll make future videos about how I got out of that deep cycle of just sleeping and watching TV and breathing and crying. But early stages are as soon as you have anxiety or a panic attack, you need to do something calm, and being productive should not be the first thing that comes to your mind. So for me, I do have watch a TV show on my list. And usually I do that with my sister. Sometimes I do it alone. I think it's really important to have like a show you watch with someone and then a show you watch by yourself, so that like when my sister's at work, I'm not like, oh my god, I can't watch anything. I have like some show that she probably hates but I like that I watch by myself. So just have a show that makes you happy, even if it's a show you're rewatching because it made you happy the first time. And that's totally fine. So these 5 things were kind of what to do the day of when you're feeling kind of low and anxious. And then I have things that I've written for days where I have a little bit more energy to do something, even though I'm feeling like I'm in a low mood. Okay. So for this list, I have cook something. I do like cooking, but of course, if I just had a mental breakdown, sometimes cooking isn't the first thing that's going to come to my mind. Like cutting things, preparing things, washing things, okay? It's a task. But days where like I'm just feeling low, it's not really like that bad. I'm not crying about it. I'm not breathing heavily. My heart isn't going really fast. But I'm just like, I'm feeling low and lonely and I don't know what to do. I might cook something and I turn it into an activity. So I pretend like I'm on MasterChef, usually MasterChef India, and I like commentate. You don't need to do all that. You can just cook anything. You can try something new. And so the whole chopping and washing the dishes, all like an activity that you do instead of like a chore. I also have edit YouTube videos on this list because I enjoy editing my YouTube videos. The whole reason I started my YouTube channel again was to kind of take my mind off of the thing that was making me so depressed. It was the only thing I would think about. It was the only thing on my mind. And I just needed it to stop being the only thing on my mind. So I thought, I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel, like since I was in high school. And I've done it once before, and then like 10 videos later, I never posted again. And I was like, I can just try it again. There's no shame in quitting something and then trying it again. I'm trying it again. And I've kind of lost touch with like editing and transitions, because like thinking of cool transitions, it takes some mental strength, which I didn't have because I'm like super low right now. So I just take videos of what's happening in my day, completely edit them just one after the other without using too much of my brain. If it makes sense to people, it makes sense to people. If it doesn't, it doesn't, because I honestly just do it as a way of therapy for myself. So when I feel a little low, I'm like, oh, do I have footage? Let me put it together. So the past 1 or 2 days, and I post it on YouTube, and like that makes me happy, and that's okay. I've only been doing YouTube as a form of making myself happy. So people who are telling me my editing's not good, I'm sorry, but that's the least of my concerns right now. But I do hope to have more fun with my YouTube channel in the future, have better transitions, maybe hire an editor, have cooler thumbnails, but that's all in the future. For now, I'm just trying to get it through one day at a time. I'm also doing a master's degree, so I have work I need to be doing as well. And so keeping myself in a good mood, or not that depressed where I just can't write, because I was in that place last month, it's been tricky, but now slowly, I'm getting a little bit better where I can do something a little more productive than the day before. But again, I have days where I just can't be productive at all, and that's okay. You have to forgive yourself. You're not a robot, you're a human, and you have emotions that need your attention sometimes, and that's more important than anything and everything. Yes, which brings me to my last point. Take it one day at a time. It seems so cliche, this whole like one day at a time thing, but as someone who's really gone through it these past 2 months, taking it one day at a time is so powerful, because when you're feeling low, when you're feeling anxious, at least for me, I'm always worried about the future. What am I doing in 3 months? What am I doing in 6 months? What am I doing next year? When am I getting married? What is my career gonna look like? Will I ever have kids? Like, my brain is just steps ahead of me. And so wherever I am in the moment just doesn't seem like a good enough place to be based on where I'm supposed to be in the future, according to my mind. And that's making me way more anxious than I would have been if I just focus on the day I have at hand. And so really, it's super cringe. Even my banner says one day at a time. My TikTok bio says one day at a time, I think. But it's really true, because in this moment, and if you are feeling low, you just need to get through the day at hand. You wake up, you had a snack, you watched a show, you wrote a few words of an essay you have due, I don't know. If you just did enough little things in your day-to-day to get you to the end of the day and to sleep peacefully, you did good, okay? Be proud of that, and you will get to where you need to be. You just will. Trust the universe. If you're religious, trust God. You'll get there. And you will slowly, I believe time heals a lot of stuff. I don't think time heals everything, but time heals a lot of things significantly. So if you're not in a productive phase of your life, you will be in the future. You don't need to pressure yourself into it. You will wake up one day when you've spent enough days breathing and going on mental health walks and just taking care of your mind and your heart, that you will wake up and feel like, oh, I can be productive today. And then you will bust out some cool tasks that you needed to do, and you will end up in a career that you want in the future. Like, your life will come together. But I know it's hard to kind of accept when you're in a low phase. So it's tricky. But I hope what I've talked about today helps you out, or someone you know, if you think they could use any advice from this video or podcast, to just make it through the day, to hopefully reassure you that it's okay to feel these feelings. I feel like growing up in a brown household, no one talks about being sad. It's just kind of like, stop being sad, okay? You got so much to be grateful for. And yes, I understand that logic completely. There is so much to be grateful for, but being depressed and being anxious is a little deeper than that. And yeah, I hope just hearing it from me, 23-year-old girl going through some things in life that aren't gonna kill me, but they feel like they've killed me, it's okay. Everything is okay, and we will get better. I'll get better. You'll get better. If you're already feeling amazing, I'm so happy for you. And I hope these tips help you in the long run, or even today, if you needed to hear them today. Thank you so much for joining me on this first kind of chatty, podcasty type video, how to be less depressed. And I'll see you in the next video. If you have any ideas of what you'd like me to talk about in an upcoming podcast, message me, leave a comment. If you are feeling kind of depressed or anxious and you maybe have no one to talk to, feel free to send me a message on Instagram or comment down below, and we'll get through this. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you guys have an amazing week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!